Hiya. Are you thinking of leaving the UK? Just thinking about it, putting your pinky toe in that thinking water? Well, do you think it's going to change you a little bit or forever? That's our subject today. Stay watching if you think my real life experiences can benefit you, and I'm sure they can. So, if we haven't met before, I'm Stephie from across the pond and back. I'm an English girl who met and married an American hubby. And I laugh every time I say that almost because it really literally did change my life forever. And we're going to look at a few things, a few aspects today. But moving abroad, moving from the UK is a big deal. So whether it has good benefits or not so good benefits, or if it was a total disaster, it's going to change you. I'm quite sure of that. So I wanted to put these ideas together in my video today to share with you, in the hope that as my English girl expat journey continued for 18 long years in the States, I lived in Florida. We had some really happy times, some sad times, some times of extreme homesickness actually. And then I moved back when my hubby died in 2022 with brain cancer. So when I moved back to be closer to my dear mum, things had changed. But I also recognized that in that 18 years, I had changed too. And so today, that's what I want to focus on a little bit today, is how my experiences can help someone who's thinking of moving from the UK. Now, obviously, I stated that I went to the States. So my perspective is from the UK to the States, England to the States. So people from Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales, they may have slightly different perspectives on things that I share here in this video, to do with my Englishness maybe. But overall, I think it's fair to say the UK in general, if we have grown up in the UK and then we move to a different country, in fact, I would say almost any country, not just the USA. So how has it changed me? And how can my experiences benefit you guys? So the first thing I was going to mention was, if you have got that far in thinking that that's what you want to do and move out to the UK, I would say definitely look into the country. Now, I know that sounds like a total no-brainer. Oh, Stephie, that's just so obvious. Actually, guess who didn't do that? Moi. So when I met and married my American husband, I was enjoying the new relationship. I was enjoying the love. I was enjoying the prospect of being married and so on and so forth. However, I didn't give it much thought about the country that I was most likely going to be moving to. We did live here in the UK for a short while, but it didn't really work too well because my husband was just totally American, no dual citizenship anywhere. And so as a kind of visitor here going on resident, it was really slow taking off with trying to get a business going or working, or you can imagine, those of you who've looked into things like that. So we decided to go to the USA. By the way, I'm having a little picnic here, kind of a picnic. It's a lake area in my local area. And I do actually have some, no, it's not Guinness, not this time. It's coffee, actually. Yes, not Guinness today. But I didn't look into what it was going to be like in the USA. I just went with the flow, I guess. Of course, I had been on holiday. I think most Brits, if they've been fortunate enough to go over there, they have some idea of what the United States is like. But of course, again, they tend to go to the touristy areas, or in Florida, in South Florida. So he was living in North Florida, which is actually quite a lot different from South Florida. That's a whole nother subject right there. So as I get moving and going back there, I'm going to be doing some videos on Florida and generally my move there and all the ups and downs of that. But keeping on that subject of number one, you really need to look into at least a little bit. So no brainer, I know, but it happens. It happened to me, and it may well happen to you if you're all excited about going to wherever. When I got there, I wasn't ready for a lot of things. First of all, it was such a culture shock. I didn't even know what culture shock was. I was pretty naive, actually. And when I look back, I was in my 30s, but I should have known better by 30s. So that was definitely a mistake that I made. Now, I'm not saying it was a total disaster, but it came close to being one at times. It came close to being a disaster because I was finding the new culture hard to take, and I hadn't looked into it very much. So there were so many things that I was just complaining about, actually. Now, I guess what it is. At the time, that's where I was at. And I used to find relatively small things really difficult. Like over there in the States, you guys don't have Boxing Day. Well, in England, we do have Boxing Day, actually, but no big deal. Different countries, different folks, different strokes. It was my job to adapt somewhat to the country, and it certainly wasn't my job to try and change them or overly complain. So that was one of the things that I used to find hard to accept. The shopping that we had to go in the car. I mean, it was just too far, too hot, and too far to walk. And then, of course, I got Americanized after a few years. I used to get the car out of the driveway, and my daughter came to visit from England, and she just looked at me one day. I always remember, "Oh, you driving?" I said yes. I had been totally Americanized, I think, driving everywhere over there, whereas over here. But I digress slightly. So I hadn't looked into things such as fashion and how people dressed and their decorum in a restaurant and their expectations, giving tips and things like that. Schools. Whoa, schools, another subject. Another video, another day, another subject. But there were various different things that were a struggle for me. And of course, guess what? The overriding thing was the weather. Now, the weather I had naturally known about. It's what it is, it's hot in Florida most of the year. But I think that's less to do with looking into things and more to do with preparing your heart and mind for what's coming. So to be fair to myself, I guess that's not so much looking into it, but please look into the country, not only the legal aspects, the financial aspects, and how far away it is from England. How far is a flight back if you need to get back to England or to the UK from your country? Look into the more cultural aspects of it. Look into whether you can actually see yourself walking down the road. Not that you have to dress like them all the time, but after a while, you find yourself wanting to be a little bit more integrated, which is another one of my points coming up soon. So it's not that we lose our Englishness or our Scottishness or Welshness or Irishness. It's to do with adapting to that country and being somewhat all things to all people. So we don't have to copy them and wear sneakers in a posh restaurant, which I've actually seen Americans do quite a bit, especially in the South. But I like to dress up a bit. What about you? But that's me. Maybe some people in England nowadays, the younger set, probably used to a little bit more casual dress, but I like to dress up a little bit when I go out. But over there, they just wear basically what they'd wear a mark away from going to the beach type of thing. So yeah, look into it. So just think about that country's problems as well, because UK is not the only country with problems. And I think a lot of people are willing to admit we've got problems here in the UK coming from this and that, but other countries have too. So just look into those countries' problems and weigh it up. I have another video which I'll leave a link to at the end, If you're thinking of moving from the UK, here are some trade-offs that we need to consider. Should be up there or down there or that way. But yeah, number one. So number two, adapting and integrating. So those are big words. I don't see that as needing to forget totally who we are. I just forget that I'm English, Stephie. Just forget that. Start trying to talk like them all the time. Do what they do all the time, and you'll just be fine. I think it's more to do with adapting. So, of course, driving on the right, had to do a major. Just going to lift my leg up here a little bit. So I'm sitting on the grass. The grass. Oh, there's a duck over there. I'm wondering if he's going to come and visit. So those of you who've seen a couple of other of my videos, I do like to be around outside in the greenery by the water. Very much a waterside kind of girl. Yeah. So if any ducks come up, that'd be neat. But yeah, integration, it doesn't mean forget your own identity at all. And I think that's definitely something that happens in this country, where we're thinking that if people move into the country, we're thinking that they should, maybe some people might not think this, just integrate. It doesn't mean just forget their background, but it does mean adapt as well. So I think for us Brits, going, if we're going to go to another country, and especially if we're going to live there, maybe learn some of the local language somewhat, learn some of their mannerisms, learn some of their little techniques, and grab some tips from locals as soon as you can. That kind of thing. Very important, because guess what? Again, give you the benefit of my experience. I didn't really know too much about tipping. Of course, here in the UK, we don't generally tip too much. If we want to, we can. But over there, it's expected. So I wasn't aware of that too much. And when I did become aware of it, I wasn't really very ready to adapt it, actually, I have to confess. So I was thinking, well, you know, these people, you know, they've had their wages and blah, blah, blah. So now I understand more about why they are tipped. But there are numerous things that I can't even recall right now. There's numerous things that I needed to adapt to very, very quick, and I didn't. I took my time. Sometimes it was out of sheer stubbornness. Words. When we used to go out, my husband used to say, well, just say restroom, you know, finish with it. And of course, my Englishness kicked in, a little bit stubborn. Oh, well, it's not a restroom to me. It's a toilet or ladies or loo, okay? So there used to be a little bit of friction there for a while, which was my making. And I think it's important, if I was doing it over again the first time, I wouldn't worry about the words. Who cares? Living in the USA, call it restrooms, you know, so what? But I was in my stubborn earlier life. Hopefully that experience and those experiences of adapting have made a good impression on me, a lasting impression, and I believe they have forever, actually, because now I don't bother with such things. I don't bother with the time wasters of life like that. You know, I'm here in England now, so I'll ask for toilet or ladies. It's just the way it is. So hopefully you'll get my drift on there. There are misconceptions about the countries that we're thinking moving to as well. So look into those as much as you can, you know, try and find out some people, you know, make some connections with people who live there, or at least watch some YouTube videos and get some testimonies, get some ideas from those people. So for me and my Englishness, when I went to America, I was very closed, very reserved. I didn't realize that I was. And I had grown up in Southern England. So anyone watching from Southern England, I hope you're not offended by this truth. And the truth is that we are very closed, reserved people, generally speaking. Not saying that people aren't friendly when you get to know them, but I'm talking about a general friendliness, and it's something that I tend to mention in a lot of my videos because I just feel so strongly about it that life's way too short not to be friendly. It doesn't mean you have to uh, like start dating that person or something. It just means be friendly, and show some kindness, show some love, even if it's a split second. Hi and bye. So yeah, all of these aspects that I've learned, and they've actually shaped me into the person that I am now. They've helped to. So at the end of the video, hopefully I'm going to accumulate all of these points and show you how they actually have benefited me for the better, much, much better. All right, number 3. So there's a great risk, a mistake as well, that I think not just me, actually, I didn't make this too much myself. I have to say, this is one of those out of my list here that I didn't do too much, mainly because my husband didn't want me to. The expat groups, the expat bubble. He wanted me to get straight on into American culture, just get to know all the people in our circle, in our world, in his work life and personal life, and just do it that way. So straight in the deep end. Wasn't even time to get in the jacuzzi and get my pinky toes warmed up. Straight in there in the deep end in the USA pond. But I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend a balance, actually. Don't go to the other extreme and just join a bunch of expat groups and hope that that's makes you feel better. I would say try and get a balance as much as you can. I know there's some excellent expat groups on Facebook who I think they really do help people, especially if they're older and they've had years in the UK and then they make this massive change. I think that they definitely help. But for the most part, I would recommend more going on the side of what I did, but not too much. So try and get a little balance there. Maintain your contacts here in the UK. Now we can talk, video. It's great. So do that. Make the most of that as much as you can, but absorb yourself in your culture of your country as well. So that's my advice with that, because for me, it was a little bit too far the other way, and I didn't have any contact with English people except for my daughter and my mum, which obviously two major people in my life, but I'm not talking to them every day. Well, actually, I did talk to my mum more as she got older, but it's still not right there, hugging them. So I would say trying to get a balance. Don't go too far the other way, each way, and I think you'll be fine integrating. All right, number 4, make a balance for your preparation. So the reason why I'm saying that is there's 2 ways that you could go too far on. You could go way too far on the one side where you're adding up, doing the math, like I did in my trade-off video, and you're sitting there scrutinizing every penny, every dollar. I don't think it's good for us to do that. There's going to be things that we can't predict. They might go up, they might go down. So I think we only need to get a certain idea and then just go for it. I can't be sitting here adding up dollar for dollar exactly how much it's going to cost me when I get back to Florida day-to-day living, because the price of eggs might go up again or the price of cars might go down. So I can only get an idea. So I'm not going to strain myself. I'm not going to overstress, overwork it, and overthink is really what I'm getting to here. Not too much overthinking. It's wise to do some balance of preparation. And also the other way, of course, if you're not preparing enough, if you're not preparing financially, of course, legally and emotionally, which I touched on as well in another video. Emotional one is really, to me, that's the deciding factor that decides this for most people, whether it's going to be a success or not. You know, I know people who've moved to Australia, Thailand, where else? Of course, the USA. My sister included. She's a UK expat. And by the way, I am a US citizen. So when I talk about going to the US, I am a citizen. So I hope that kind of explains when I talk so freely about moving there. I've done all the paperwork. I've gone through that whole journey already. I always remember when I was a US resident and I was thinking about the next move forward, and I was invited to become a citizen, which was nice. I'm very thankful for that. But I was really thinking, should I or shouldn't I? And then I had to sit back and think, analyze, why am I analyzing this? Why am I thinking about it? Shouldn't I just go for it? I mean, US citizenship, that's a big thing to be valued. But at the time, I was worried about losing my Englishness, which in retrospect is not necessary. It's silly, actually. With all due respect to people who are there in that position, I don't mean it in a condescending way. I mean, please don't worry about that. You won't lose your Englishness. You will just gain your persona as US citizen along with being English. So I wouldn't worry about that. Please don't worry. If you are thinking of becoming a US citizen and you're currently a US resident, love to hear from you, by the way. Please give me your comments down below about this whole subject. If you are thinking of moving and you're worried, or any questions, what's this, what's that, why and when and how, I'll do my best to answer according to my experience. And also there are other good YouTube channels that I can definitely recommend that I've seen myself, where there's good advice and testimonies as well. So really, to wrap it all up for today, I really think that the move to the US for me, moving from the UK to the US, changed my life forever. It made me who I am today. It changed me from being a closed English girl who didn't even tend to chat with the people who collected rubbish. I know that sounds terrible, and it is terrible actually. I'm just admitting it, that the way I was brought up in England, we were taught that, well, they're, you know, the class system. Does that make sense to some people? I'm really, really sad about it. And I'm actually ashamed that I ever got close to being like that. It wasn't that I didn't like them, it's just didn't chat to them because they were rubbish people. So that was a major change for me, a major shift from recognizing that everyone, everywhere, very valuable, very important, the job that they're doing. So, and I also, the hospitality side of things, my husband was very hospitable, and he often used to get chatting to different people, and he would say to them in the end, come round for some dinner. And in the early days, that used to grate on me. So I thought, well, who's going to cook the dinner then? Moi. But his great generosity and hospitality just rubbed off on me completely. And now I'm the one who's here in England offering people a cup of tea. Would you like to stay for some lunch? Would you like a snack, or whatever it is? I never used to do that before. And I definitely have to say that we English people, come on, let's be more hospitable, more kind to people, please. That's my admonition for today. But anyone who feels grated by my words, please let me know. I do want to hear if you have anything contrary to say about that. Again, I'm generalizing. I'm not saying that all people in the UK are not hospitable, but it definitely is a thing here where you just don't do it unless you know people. My husband was very careful, by the way, not to invite people in unless he could tell that they were pretty trustworthy and so on. You know, we had young children, so he was definitely very wise with that, very careful. And I also think one last thing to share with you before I go, I'm much more ready to laugh, much more ready to smile at things. Now, things do get me down, and they have. And especially, I've gone through 2 bereavements in the last 2 years, and major bereavements in my life, my husband and then my mum. So they came within 2 years of each other. So now that's why I am much more ready to smile and laugh about things of life, because I realise that we need to. We need to do that, especially when we have long, cold English winters coming up. We need to find something to make us smile, something to make us happy disposition. So give people time. That's something that I do much, much more now. I'm not saying I do it perfectly, properly. Oftentimes I'm in a hurry, go to the grocery store, get my groceries, on my way to work, get home tired. But I do try and remember what I learned in my journeys as an expat in the USA. I do think that most of these, if not all of these things, apply to you moving out of the UK. Actually, I think moving to a different country definitely expands your mind, expands your thinking. It makes you more appreciative of the good English things. Actually, when I got back here, I love the English countryside. I just love it. And I always did, but even more so now. I appreciate it. I appreciate the fish and chips. I appreciate certain aspects of English life, the culture, the history. I notice things when I'm driving around. Makes me more appreciative of what I have. But overall, still moving to the USA. So watch this space. Thank you for watching today. Thank you so very much for all that who have subscribed to my channel. I value that greatly. And I will look forward to seeing you in the next video. Cheerio.